So in this exercise we're going to look at converting a photograph into a piece of art in Photoshop. So the first thing that we're going to do is straighten up the building because typically all buildings that are taken with a wide angle lens have some sort of distortion to them, and we want to straighten up the sides first. So first thing we're going to do is come into filter up here, and we're going to come down here to lens correction. But before I do that, I'm going to make a copy of my background layer. So I'll say duplicate this layer, and we'll turn off the background layer, and we'll work off this copy. So I'm going to come up here and pick lens correction, and once we're in here, first thing I'm going to do is turn on the grid, and I'm going to make my grid color green just so it's easier to see, like a fluorescent green kind of color. And this tool up here lets you move the grid around, so you can kind of straighten up this edge, and you can see this edge isn't too bad here. It's off a little bit up at the top. Right here, if we put this side up here, we can see that this side, the very front, is off a little bit, and then this side over here is off quite a bit. You can see that here. So first thing I would like to do is straighten this side here. So I'm going to use the straighten tool right here, and I'm basically going to click down here at the base and drag up along this edge right here, and this will straighten that edge out first. So now I can realign my grid, and now that looks good. Now you can see that this one's off and that one's off as well. So what I'll do next is come over here to custom, and under custom we're going to come down here and change our vertical perspective, and when I drag this to the left, you'll see how it will drag these up a little bit. And now I can use my move tool to kind of see that one looks pretty good over here, and that one looks pretty good over here. Maybe just one more click to 11. Yeah, that looks, it's pretty close here. It's close enough for what we need it for. So I'll hit OK on that, and that straightens that up. So basically the difference between the two here, we have before and after. Not a really huge difference, but it does straighten the building up to give it an accurate kind of projection. So the next thing we're going to do is clean this up before we do anything else. We want to take the wires out. We want to take out the text in here. I'm going to take out this vehicle here and these vehicles here and replace the windows in here and so on and so forth. So let's show you how to do that. It's sometimes can be a time-consuming process, and you know it takes a little bit of finesse sometimes. So let's do the wires first because they're fairly easy to do. So we're going to come up here first and click on the spot healing brush tool, and basically I'm going to come in here, and on my background copy layer I'm going to just kind of click and drag this and kind of paint over this power line here like this till I get to the edge of the building, and I'm going to stop, and it should clean that up relatively good. If it didn't, I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger and just clean that stuff back out, and I'll come down here and do the same thing to this one like that, and click here and do that. Okay, so we got the sky done. Now I'm going to zoom up to the wires in here a little bit closer, and sometimes when you're doing this it doesn't always work the best, so we'll see what happens. But if we try to do this all in one sweep, it might not work, but we can try it first and always undo after. So I'll just kind of draw along that line like that. See what happens. It's not too bad, but you can see we end up with some problems like that, and we can clean some of this stuff up after. Not too bad. get the bulk of it done first. Something like that. Okay. So to clean these windows up here, we're going to use another method here in a minute, and I'll show you how to do that. Down here, basically what we need to do is copy one of these windows here and put them in across here, and I'm going to make a kind of an executive decision here and decide that I'm going to put windows all the way across here. So I'll have 2, 4, and I'm going to put a window here, and I'll put this window back in here. And we're going to take out all these pipes here, all the conduit that you see there. We'll also end up having to take the shadows out and things like that. So basically what I'm going to do here is come in with the polygonal lasso tool, and I can decide to take one of these windows. I'm going to take this one because this one here has these stickers in all 4 corners. So I'm going to pick this one first and basically come over here and just kind of select this like this. Kind of come around it. Come down around the bottom. To the top like that, and we're going to do a layer new via copy. So that's going to put that on its own layer over here, and I'll call this window clone. Alright, so we'll take this window clone and we're going to bring it over here, and what I'm going to do is mirror image it. Obviously it has to go the opposite way, so I'll come up here and say edit, transform, flip horizontally, and it will flip it. Okay, so then I can kind of position it down here and kind of get it into place like that. I'll zoom up to it a little bit closer. Okay, so right now, you know, I'm not sure if it's perfectly aligned in there or not, so basically what I need to do is kind of make it a little bit opaque, take the opacity down a little bit so we can kind of see through it a little bit. So with that done, I can kind of move it into position like that. Alright, I don't know how far down it comes, but I'm going to guess that it's in the right position that way. We adjusted that a little bit, so maybe I'll just adjust that up just a hair like that. And accept that, and then change the opacity back up to 100%. Now we can continue to do this for all these windows, but again, there's another method to do this, so that's what we'll do next here. I'm going to basically on the window clone layer, we can leave that alone. I'm going to just rename that clone. Okay, and now we'll zoom out, fit the screen here, and we're going to go into another area here where we can put vanishing points on our screen where we can copy these windows more accurately. So we're going to come up here to vanishing point. This brings us into a dialog box like this, and I'm going to fit it on my screen first off. And the very first thing that we have to do is come up here and put a perspective grid on. So basically we just click on the edges of our building here, here, and down here to put a perspective grid on. Now I don't have this bottom point here, so I'm going to have to kind of guess where this line goes across, but we can get it pretty close by the 3 points that we have. So I'll click here first, and my second point will be right about here. My third point's down here, and then my fourth point is going to come down along that wall, and it's going to be roughly right about there, I'd say. As long as we have a nice grid on here like that, we shouldn't be in good shape. Okay, so now I'm going to zoom up to this area in here like so, and I'm going to pull this down just a little bit with the grid tool here. We're going to just kind of Actually, we'll click on this button right here, which is the Edit Plane tool, and we'll click and just drag that down just a little bit like that, so that we get this foundation as well. So then we'll come up here and we'll start doing our cloning. So I'll click on the clone tool, and I'll hold down the Alt key and pick right here. Okay, and I should be able to start cloning that. Okay, you can see how it's cloning that down. Okay, kind of get that in there like that. So something like that, and that will put that window in as well. Now we have to fill in the brick between here, so I'm going to have to pick some brick up top here and just kind of fill in between here. So we'll just kind of bring this in. Now don't worry about if the brick doesn't match up perfectly, because we are turning this into an artistic type of image, so some of the detailing that we're doing isn't going to be showing up, so we can kind of get that in there, kind of like that. We'll come down, and when we come down to the very bottom here, this part right here, we may have to change the perspective grid just a hair. So we can do something like that, and then we can finish this up over here. Again, we can kind of take this corner right here. We have a nice line here, so I can bring that down right to here and start cloning that over, and down, and over like that. Kind of, oops, little mistake there. So we're putting that back in. Some of this other stuff we may have to come back to, but again, we'll finish up this column here that we have. So I'll pick right about here and bring that down. I'm going to fill that in as well, like this. Might as well get as much as we can while we're here. So, oops, my bad. If you make a mistake like that, you should be able to hold down Control Z and back out of that. So we'll have to redo that one more time. So we'll try that one more time. It's just a little slip of my finger there, and that's all it takes sometimes. So. Now it looks like we're picking up the old car. So the other car that was underneath here, we're picking it back up again. So I have to reposition myself up here and just come back down here and finish that up. All right. So as you can see, this is a little bit of a time-consuming process to go through, and I won't go through and do this with you, but basically I would copy these two windows over and get this all established. To get this column out of here, I'm gonna use this column to basically cheat and put this in here. So basically what I do is click right here, for instance, and I'd come over here. I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger, okay, and position that right where I think it's going to be right about there somewhere in that neighborhood. Gotta make my brush a little bit smaller. So I want to, well, we can establish that corner right here. Okay, it's the same window grouping, so I should be able to establish that corner right here by holding down the Alt key and picking right there, and then bringing it over to right here and starting right from that corner. Okay, and basically painting this in like this. So you can see it's not, the bricks aren't matching up perfectly, but like I said before, you know, this doesn't have to be perfect as far as what it's matching up to be, because we're gonna go in and make this an artistic type of image, which basically means we're going to put in like painterly type of stuff. So it's not going to be something that we have to be too concerned about. Now, I'm not too happy with the way that this is coming out, so I'm going to get out of this command. Now, one thing I mentioned to you guys in class is that if you accidentally hit escape while you're in this command, you're going to lose everything that you did. So if you don't want to lose it, you want to make sure that you hit OK up here. But I want to show you a different way to get this column, and it's very similar to what we just did with this window when we first copied this window, mirrored it, and brought it over here. So what I want to do basically is come up and copy this column, and we're going to copy it and paste it onto this right here, and stretch it out so that it fills up this area. So that's what I'll do here next, is I'll hit OK on that. I'm going to come to the background copy here and use my polygonal lasso tool, zoom up a little bit to that so we can see what we're doing. I'm not going to get it all, so we'll have to do a little bit of cloning afterwards. And also you can see how the sun angle, and you don't want to lose this right here where we have this shadow coming down through here. We don't really have to even do any cloning up here, so we can leave that alone. So I really need the column to go from here, you know, down to here. So we basically can, you know, start right about here and do the cloning. So so what I'll do is I'll use a polygonal lasso tool and click like this and establish the face. So we'll come down here like that, and I don't want the car, so I'm going to kind of come up at an angle like this, and we'll come back up here and finish that off. We'll do a layer new via copy. Okay, so there's that layer there, and we're going to just take this over like this, and I'm going to bring it above this clone layer so we can see it a little bit better. So you can see here how it matched up. Now I don't want to stretch this up. If I stretch that up, then we're going to have a little bit of a problem there. So, and once I want to get it into position, I'm going to zoom up to it a little bit closer and use the arrow keys. Make sure that you're on the move tool, and I'm going to use the arrow keys to move this 1 pixel at a time like that, to move it. And then we can click the grip here and just kind of stretch it out a little bit like this to that corner, and that should probably work. We'll still have to clean up a little bit of this stuff here, but we can do that back in the Vanishing Point tool by, you know, getting some of this stuff out of here. So you can see here it looks pretty good coming down like that. Okay, I'm going to clean this back up again once we get in there. I guess that's it. So we'll accept that, and that puts that in there like that. We'll zoom out, fit screen here. So that was an easy fix there. Okay, instead of doing all that cloning, we just basically took that and stretched it out and fit it in there. So now we'll go back into our vanishing point and zoom up to this area. Let's zoom up to this area right here. Let's fix this stuff first and fix the shadows. Okay, so I'll come into my clone tool again and hold down the Alt key, and I'm going to pick like right about here on this edge, because I want it to be the same edge right here, and we'll just kind of paint this out. So we'll come down like this and get this all painted out. So you can see it's not perfect, but it's not too bad. Okay, so we can kind of get that out of there. I might just, sometimes it's better to just go in and do the whole window so that you don't have, you know, what's going on here kind of. So we can kind of just paint this all out. Such, well, there we go. That looks better. I'm not sure why we have that little green line there, but paint over it some more. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And then underneath here we want to get rid of this shadow, and so I'm going to again start down here in this corner again, right here in that corner, and we'll paint like across the bottom here. Might as well, boy, so we're ending up having to clone all that stuff out of there, so we can kind of come down and get rid of those shadows. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. We have a little bit of a problem here, so I'm going to just clone this whole window over to here. Shouldn't be an issue, so I'll hold down the Alt key and we'll pick right up here. Or actually, I'll start back where we did before, right here. Like that, and reestablish that point right here. Come across. So you can see it's changing its position just a little bit, but no one will know once you're completely done with this. So we're just going to go side to side, getting that in there. Make sure we get it all. And I want to paint this all at once, because if I have to reposition my cursor again, I might not get it lined back up there perfectly. So I want to make sure that, you know, anything that looks a little bit weird, I should make sure I go over a couple times just to make sure it looks right. Okay, so just a little bit of issue right in there. Close enough. Alright, so moving on, we come down here, and I would do the same thing over here with the brick, try to line this up a little bit more. So I'm going to just kind of click like right here underneath there and just kind of reestablish this over to here. I don't want to get rid of my shadow, which I kind of did a little bit there, so close enough. So anyway, so we'll go ahead and I'll finish this up and I'll come back here in a minute. Now I'm almost done finishing this up and almost out of all these cars out of here. So you can see here's our before and after. One of the things that I want to do is I got this curb that's going down here, and you can see because I'm cloning I got some kind of fuzzy edges in there. So one way to protect things is to just select them, and then when you're cloning you can establish lines using like the polygonal lasso tool here like this to make nice crisp edges like this. So I'm going to kind of come in here like that, and now this is protected. Basically I can only clone in that area, so if I hold down my Alt key and come over here and pick clone again, I can pick here for instance, and then I can come in here and finish up these areas in here and reposition myself here, kind of do that like that, and establish the top here so we can kind of come along the top like this, reestablish, and just kind of go like that. So that creates a nice hard edge across there, and I can do the same thing with the pavement. So I can do a Control D to deselect that, and then this time we'll come across this edge like this for the pavement. So I want to kind of establish a line like that, and we'll just kind of come over here and get the rest of this pavement like this. And I'll hold down, click on clone, hold down Alt, and I got some lines that are going down to meet this. So I'm going to put another one of these hatch lines in here. So I'll pick right here, and that hatch line will be right there. So we'll kind of establish that up like this and bring that line down like this and across like that. And we'll reestablish that one. Kind of getting, and it's not that important if the lines don't, meet exactly, but we can come in there and clean these up a little bit. Kind of redo that line there. Reestablish. Kind of bring this down like that. Reestablish. Okay. And finally we'll get some pavement here and kind of fill this all in. Close enough. Command D to deselect, and there we go. So the only thing we have left is this over here, this little bit of brick over here, so we can zoom up to that as well. And I'll go ahead and clone that as well. So I'll hold down the Alt key, and I'm going to pick the edge here, come down here, and just kind of paint this in, come over. I get a little bit too far, but kind of get rid of some of that stuff there. And get a little bit of a line there, and it repeated down here, so I'm gonna just kind of finish that up. There. So now we've cleaned all that up. I have to get this truck out of here, and I'm also going to get the background out of here. So, and the date stamp here. The date stamp's pretty easy, and I can get rid of some of the ground shadows if I want as well. I can use the clone stamp tool again to do that. Just make a larger brush. Hold down the Alt key here, and I'm going to pick just opposite from where I'm doing this, so I'll start here at the grass line and establish that right here, and just kind of come down and paint this stuff out like that. Right above this wire in here, we're gonna click right here and just kind of see how close my my point is to where I'm painting. So you can see it's kind of just going right along that like that. And I can do the same thing again, hold down right there, and just kind of paint that right out. I'll keep the tree in there because that's fine. And we'll get rid of the date here, so we'll just kind of get rid of that as well. Get rid of that pole, whoops. Re-hold that down. Alright. So the rest of that looks good. You know, we could get rid of some more of those lines, but that's close enough. Lastly, we're going to go ahead and outline the building and get rid of the background. So on the background copy, we can either do a mask or we can just take that right out altogether. Let's see. I guess we'll do a mask probably on that. So I'll come up and select the quick selection tool and establish the sky and kind of come down here like that. We'll get rid of that car too. Alright. And we'll come down here and get rid of this building. Something like that. Looks good, and we'll throw on a mask. And we'll invert that mask, or Control I. And so there we go. Now we have that done. So up here on this cloning layer, we can clone some of this stuff back in up here. So I'll hold down the Alt key again and get the pavement in there, and just, whoops. We want to be on the clone tool. Alt. And pick some of this up. So right here we have to finish up the bottom of this building here a little bit. So we're going to clone down, and we'll clone this window. We could use the perspective grid if we wanted to, or we could just zoom up to that and fix it. It's probably not necessarily something we have to do to finish up that corner going into the perspective grid. So I'll just use simple clone tool here. Make my brush a little bit smaller, hold down the Alt key and pick right here, and just kind of clone this down like this. Get that in there like that, and hold down Alt and kind of get this window right here. Finish that up. We'll kind of do right there. Get some of that grass down in here. And we'll establish the grass over here as well, kind of. There we go. And we'll finish this up by getting the grass and the pavement together. And so there we go. Oops. Zoom out. Okay, so now we're in good shape here. We still have these shrubs over here, that's fine. I could get rid of those if I wanted to, and I might just do that because it might not just look correct. So I'll go into the mask here, and using my paintbrush should be able to paint those right out. So we can just kind of paint them out because it is a mask. So get rid of that right there. There. So now we'll find an appropriate background and put that in. So I'll come right back. So I'm bringing in this image here into Photoshop, and I've placed that in the background here, and I can move it around, determine, you know, how I want to view this. You know, I kind of like having that tree in the background there. You can see how the image is a little bit larger, so I could, you know, shrink it down a little bit if I want to, and kind of move it around a little bit. So I'm going to bring it down just a hair like that. I kind of like this over here. That kind of looks natural, so we'll leave that like that and accept that. So now that we have all this done, oh, I just noticed we have a mistake here. When we remove the wires, we forgot to clean these windows up here. So I can either clone from down here, clone this window up to here, and clone this window up to here. And I think that's probably what I'll do. So let's see how that's going to work. I don't have to go into perspective grid to do this because I'm cloning straight up, so it shouldn't be an issue. But you know, we could go in to the perspective grid again and redo that. But let's just see how this is going to work. I'll make my brush a little bit larger, hold down the Alt key, pick a common point right here on the upper portion here, and we'll bring that up, and you can see the preview of it, so I can line it up where I want to put it right there. And then I should be able to just clone straight down like this. But now you can see that's way out of whack, isn't it? Okay, so we do have to, you know, bring that into the perspective grid, because it's, even though it looks looks like we could copy it up, it's just not going to work. We could, you know, do a layer, you know, select a window and do a layer via copy and do it that way, but not going to work. So we're going to come up here to Filter, Vanishing Point, and I'll establish a new grid on this side. So we'll click on the grid and kind of click up here. Now, because I already have a grid established, it's notice that I can't bring my cursor over to that point. So what they want you to do is basically click on the middle point right here, click into drag. Okay, command drag creates a perpendicular plane, so on a PC it would be control, I believe. So we're going to hold down the command or control key, and then this will pull off another perspective grid like this. And with that done, now we can resize this and get it sized back down here correctly. Obviously it's red right now because it's not going in the right location, but we can reestablish that like that. That's good. Our inclination is to hit OK at this point, but don't do that. So now we'll zoom up to this area, and I should be able to use the clone stamp tool again. Holding down the Alt key again, I'll establish, say, this point right here, and you can see that point right there. I'm going to redo that. Didn't get it quite perfect, so we'll put that in right about there. And we'll just kind of get this window cleaned up a little bit. So I don't like the way that that's coming out. It's not. Now let's see what it does. Remember, if something's not coming out right, you can always hit escape and redo it again. Not everything is going to come out perfect the first time, but that's what we hope happens, but it doesn't always work that way. So we just keep painting here and get this window painted in. I know it's shifted up a little bit, but again, we'll have to keep in mind what we're using this for. It's going to be an artistic type of rendering, so So this one here, I guess we'll copy this one over to this one, and we'll establish the point right here, and we'll establish that point right there, and just kind of paint that in like that. And I only need the window right here, so I'll pick right there, kind of bring that in like this, come down, just do this one window. It's close enough. Okay, so that looks good enough, and we just have a little bit of a issue right there. We can kind of finish that up right there, a little piece right there as well. Hit OK. Good to go. Uh-oh. We just made a big mistake here. We put the clone actually on this layer here. There it is. Okay, it's on. I was on the wrong layer when I did that, so, and you can see didn't come out quite perfect either, so let's redo that again. So it's not going to matter in this case because this is behind the building, but we do have to put it on this layer up here. So I'll pause and I'll redo that again. Okay, so we've gone ahead and cleaned that up, fixed my mistake there, and now we're ready to start the next part of this.